My husband's family tried to sabotage my business after I refused to fund their lavish lifestyles. My story starts about 5 years ago, right after I married my wonderful husband, David. We had been together for 7 years before that, since college, and our relationship was built on a foundation of mutual respect, love, and shared ambitions. We both came from relatively humble beginnings, though my family was a bit more financially stable than his. David's family, particularly his mother, Eleanor, and his 2 sisters, Chloe and Bethany, had always been challenging, to say the least. They had a penchant for expensive tastes, but a distinct lack of desire to work for them. From the moment I was introduced to them, I sensed an underlying tension, a sort of passive-aggressive judgment that I attributed to me not being good enough for their golden boy, David, who, despite their constant criticism, they adored. When David and I got married, we made a conscious decision to be financially independent. We both work hard. I, a graphic designer with a passion for baking, had always dreamed of opening my own artisanal bakery. David, a software engineer, was incredibly supportive of my aspirations. We saved diligently, lived modestly, and after 3 years of marriage, I finally had enough capital, combined with a small loan, to open Sweet Escapes, my dream bakery. It was a small, charming place in a bustling part of town, and with a lot of hard work, long hours, and David's unwavering support, it started to flourish. The first year was tough, but by the second, we were turning a profit, and I was even able to hire a few employees. It was everything I had ever wanted. The trouble with David's family began subtly. At first, it was just little comments during family gatherings. "Must be nice to just bake cakes all day," Eleanor would remark, usually with a condescending smile. "So easy, not like a real job." Chloe would chime in, "Yes, and all that money from selling sugar, imagine." I tried to brush it off, attributing it to their general negativity. David, bless his heart, would always jump to my defense, explaining the complexities of running a small business, the long hours, the physical toll, but his words seemed to fall on deaf ears. Then came the requests for loans. Chloe was the first. She wanted to start an online boutique, a venture she had absolutely no experience in, and asked me for a small investment of $10,000. She claimed she'd pay me back with interest within a year. I politely declined, explaining that Sweet Escapes was still in its growth phase and every penny was being reinvested. I offered to help her with her branding and website design, pro bono, if she developed a solid business plan, hoping to encourage her to actually put some effort in. She scoffed at the offer, calling me selfish and greedy for not supporting family. David backed me up, reminding her that our money was joint and he agreed with my decision. This set a precedent. Next was Bethany, who needed money for a down payment on a new luxury car. Her current car, a perfectly functional sedan, was apparently embarrassing for someone in her social circle. She asked for $15,000, promising to pay it back from her upcoming promotion that was always just around the corner. Again, I declined, offering to help her research more affordable, reliable used cars. She also called me selfish and unsupportive. Eleanor joined the chorus, telling David that I was driving a wedge between him and his sisters, and that a good wife would support her husband's family. David, ever the diplomat, tried to explain our financial philosophy, but it was clear they weren't listening. They saw my success as a personal piggy bank that they were entitled to. The requests became more frequent and more audacious. Eleanor wanted money for a much-needed renovation of her kitchen, despite her kitchen being perfectly functional. She argued that since my business was doing so well, I could easily lend her $20,000 for it. When I refused, she began a campaign of emotional manipulation, telling David that I was disrespecting her, that I was a bad daughter-in-law, and that I clearly didn't care about his family's comfort. The turning point came when they realized I wouldn't just hand over money. Their tactics shifted. They started visiting Sweet Escapes, not as customers, but as inspectors. Eleanor would show up unannounced, scrutinizing everything, from the cleanliness of the counters to the presentation of the pastries. She'd make loud, unsolicited suggestions to my employees, often contradicting my own instructions. Chloe and Bethany would sit at a table for hours, ordering the cheapest coffee, and openly criticize the decor, the music, and even the other customers within earshot of staff and patrons. It was disruptive and incredibly frustrating. My employees started complaining about their presence, and I noticed a slight dip in customer satisfaction surveys on the days they visited. I tried to address it politely. I spoke to Eleanor, explaining that while I appreciated her interest, her constant critiques were affecting my business. She feigned innocence, claiming she was just trying to help and that I was too sensitive. David also spoke to them, reiterating that Sweet Escapes was my business and they needed to respect my professional boundaries. This only made things worse. They felt personally attacked. Then came the online attacks. Negative reviews started appearing on my bakery's Yelp, Google, and social media pages. They were suspiciously similar in their phrasing, all complaining about stale pastries, rude staff, overpriced goods, and unhygienic conditions. I knew immediately who was behind them. The language, the specific complaints, even some of the grammatical errors, were hallmarks of Eleanor, Chloe, and Bethany. The reviews were incredibly damaging, especially for a small business that relied heavily on word of mouth and online reputation. My ratings began to drop, and I saw a noticeable decrease in new customers that I was devastated. I poured my heart and soul into Sweet Escapes, and to see it intentionally undermined by David's own family was a betrayal I couldn't comprehend. I showed David the reviews, pointing out the similarities to their past criticisms. He was furious. He confronted them, showing them the reviews and asking them directly if they were responsible. They denied everything, of course, feigning outrage and claiming I was paranoid and accusing innocent people. Eleanor even cried, saying I was destroying the family. David, however, was not convinced. He knew his family. He knew their vindictive streak when they didn't get their way. He decided to take matters into his own hands. He created a fake social media profile and joined several local community groups where his family was active. It wasn't long before he found proof. Chloe, in a private message exchange with a friend, openly boasted about leaving negative reviews for that stuck-up baker wife of David's because she deserved it for not sharing her money. She even included screenshots of some of the reviews she had written. David found similar evidence from Bethany and Eleanor. When David presented this evidence to them, they finally broke. They tried to backtrack to minimize their actions, claiming it was just a joke or they were just upset. Eleanor even tried to spin it as tough love to motivate me to improve. David was beyond disappointed. He told them, in no uncertain terms, that their actions were unacceptable, that they were actively trying to harm his wife's livelihood, and that he would not tolerate it. He demanded they remove all the fake reviews and issue public apologies. They refused, of course, claiming they had done nothing wrong and that I was the one who was being unreasonable. This was a major turning point in David's relationship with his family. He had always tried to mediate, to keep the peace, but their blatant disregard for my business and their malicious actions were a step too far for him. He told them that until they took responsibility for their actions and genuinely apologized to me, he would be limiting contact. This shocked them. They never imagined David would truly side with me against them. Not completely did I in the meantime. I had to deal with the damage. I contacted the platforms where the fake reviews were posted, providing evidence that they were malicious and unfounded. Some were removed, but others remained, making it an uphill battle to rebuild my online reputation. I also invested in a reputation management service and started actively soliciting positive reviews from my loyal customers, which helped to counteract some of the negativity. The next tactic they employed was even more insidious. They started spreading rumors about Sweet Escapes in the local community. They would tell people that my ingredients were cheap, that I cut corners, that my bakery was a front for something illicit. They tried to turn people against me, particularly other small business owners, by implying I was unethical. This was harder to combat directly, as rumors are intangible and difficult to trace. One day, I received a call from a local health inspector. Someone had filed an anonymous complaint alleging unsanitary conditions at Sweet Escapes. claiming rodent infestations and expired ingredients. I was shocked. My bakery was meticulously clean, and I prided myself on using fresh, high-quality ingredients. The inspector conducted a thorough, unannounced inspection. He found nothing. Absolutely nothing. He was actually quite impressed with my standards. He did, however, mention that the complaint had come from an anonymous tipster who had given very specific, but ultimately false, details about the alleged infractions. I had a strong suspicion who was behind it. David, upon hearing about the health inspection, was livid. This wasn't just petty squabbling anymore. This was a deliberate attempt to shut down my business, to destroy everything I had worked for. He realized that his family's jealousy and entitlement had escalated to a dangerous level. He decided to take a firm stance, so he sent a formal cease and desist letter, drafted by a lawyer friend, to his mother and sisters. The letter outlined all their malicious actions, the fake reviews, the online harassment, the spreading of false rumors, and the false health complaint. It stated that if they continued to engage in any actions that harmed my business or reputation, he would pursue legal action against them for defamation and business interference. He also included all the evidence he had gathered, including the social media screenshots. This finally got their attention. They realized David wasn't bluffing. They were scared of legal repercussions. Chloe and Bethany, after consulting with their own, much cheaper, lawyers, realized the gravity of their actions. They were looking at potential fines and lawsuits that could cripple them financially. Eleanor, however, remained defiant, still believing she was in the right. The situation came to a head at a mandatory family meeting David called. He insisted I be present. It was tense, uncomfortable, and filled with accusations and denials. Eleanor launched into a tirade, blaming me for everything, calling me manipulative and a gold digger who had stolen her son. David, however, was unwavering. He calmly laid out all the evidence, reiterating the legal consequences of their actions. Chloe and Bethany, for the first time, seemed genuinely remorseful. They saw the tangible threat to their own financial stability and social standing. They apologized, albeit somewhat begrudgingly at first, for their actions. It wasn't the heartfelt apology I truly wanted, but it was a start. They agreed to remove any remaining negative reviews they could, and to stop spreading rumors. Eleanor, however, refused to apologize. She stormed out, declaring that she had no daughter-in-law and no son if he continued to side with me. David, with a heavy heart, told her that if she couldn't accept me and respect our boundaries, then he had no choice but to go no contact with her. This was devastating for him, as he had always been close to his mother, despite her flaws. But he had finally reached his limit. He made it clear that his loyalty was to me and our marriage, and he would not allow anyone, not even his own family, to undermine that. Since then, things have been quieter. Chloe and Bethany have mostly kept their distance, and when we do see them at extended family gatherings, they're civil, though there's an undeniable awkwardness. They haven't attempted any further sabotage, and my bakery's reputation has slowly recovered. I've focused on what truly matters: my amazing customers, my dedicated employees, and the delicious pastries I love to create. Eleanor remains estranged. She occasionally sends David passive-aggressive texts or emails, trying to guilt-trip him, but David stands firm. He sends her cards on holidays, but does not initiate contact beyond that. It's sad, but it's a boundary we had to set to protect our marriage and my business. This whole ordeal taught me a lot about family, boundaries, and the lengths some people will go to out of envy and entitlement. It also reinforced my appreciation for David. He truly is my rock, my partner, and my biggest supporter. Sweet Escapes is thriving, and I couldn't be prouder of what we've built together, despite the bitter taste of family drama that almost ruined it all. I've learned to trust my instincts, to protect what I've built, and that sometimes cutting ties, even with family, is necessary for peace and happiness. I often wonder what would have happened if I had just given in to their demands for money, but I know in my heart that it would have only fueled their sense of entitlement and made things worse in the long run. My success, my joy, and my peace are not for sale, and they are certainly not theirs to take.